Just got back from Radio Row, the mecca of the media during Super Bowl week, and I wanted to take time in this video to kind of give you all behind the scenes, talk a little bit about the experience and what it was like and how it all went. So, man, I mean, what a time to be alive. I mean, this was one of the coolest things I've ever done, just in my life in general, and certainly when it comes to having this channel and creating content and all of that, and then seeing it on this stage, and absolutely insane. So I'll kind of walk you through the entire day, and we'll go over my thoughts and whatnot. The picture behind you is not from this Radio Row. It is from just a Radio Row, but it kind of, I guess the last time the Super Bowl was in New Orleans. But this gives you an idea of what it kind of looks like. And it kind of looks like a science fair. It's kind of set up very similar to how those booths are set up. That one's a little more congested. They did better with the spacing this year compared to that, but it's set up very much like a science fair. And then in the corners of the room are like these huge, I guess like the big dogs, right? You have like your DraftKings, Pro Football Talk, FanDuel, ESPN, some of those Sirius, like Bleacher Report was a big one. So those are like huge stages, huge productions, huge stages, and they're there. And then in the middle is kind of what you're looking at now with just kind of more of the normal setup. So my spot, I did a spot at for ESPN and for ESPN Radio, and so my spot was at 9:30.
So Monday you're going to be celebrating if Kellen Moore's named the head coach.
I'll be the happiest guy in the world. I said that I would drive Kellen to the airport if he needed me to. I'd Uber him around. I'd buy him a drink if he wants to. Cat's meow, 3-for-1 drinks every single day. Y'all know that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But if Kellen wants to go down there Monday, hey,
whatever.
Tabs on me, especially 3-for-1. I'll pick up that tab any day of the week. I get on down there and I have to go get my credentials. So I go. I'm asking all the security people, like, okay, where do I go for credentials? Like, what do I do here? So they point me down to this room, so I'm hightailing it down there to get the credentials so I can get into the actual area to be early, whatever. So I'm in my own zone. I'm barely even paying attention to what's around me. I'm walking into the credential area where you get your passes, and someone's holding the door open for me. Like, they're like 10 feet ahead of me. They see me right behind them, and they hold the door open. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate it, man. Whatever. Just say something, not even worried about it. Blow on through. I realize that it's John Gruden. So John Gruden and me are like walking basically next to each other to get in line to get our media credentials to get into the show. And I'm sitting here like, holy shit, like I am not in Kansas anymore. This is, I mean, I'm not even in there yet. And I'm rubbing elbows with John Gruden. So I get my credentials. Gruden gets his credentials. And I end up going to the main floor. Now, when I walk in the main floor, I mean, it is just, it's almost like, how like back in the day, they would do commercials on like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Disney Channel where all of the characters are in the commercial. And they're all kind of like the shows are crisscrossing, and Courage the Cowardly Dog is hanging out with Ed, Edd, and Eddy or whatever. That's what it felt like, because you walk in and you see like Fox Sports next to Pro Football Talk, next to ESPN, next to whoever else, and all of the hosts are there, and they're all doing their own thing independently of everybody else. Like Kay Adams was at the FanDuel stage. So Kay Adams is interviewing, at one point she was interviewing Nico Collins. Next to that stage is Pro Football Talk, where Chris Sims and Mike Florio are standing there as it's about to get started. So it's just insane to look at. Insane. Crazy. Now, from a personal anecdote, it's we have this channel has been built up pretty big. I mean, it's a big platform. It is, depending on who you ask, probably in that top 3, closer to 1, but certainly top 3 as far as like market share, views, hours watched, whatever, any metric you want in New Orleans. So in the New Orleans sports radio space, we are towards the top, but the production is very, very, very tiny. It's literally one. It's me. It's just me. right? So seeing these huge productions is crazy, and seeing what goes into the show is nuts. What goes into my show is I click record and I edit and click publish. That's it. The most pre-production we do is I move the microphone up and down. So to see all these wires and cameras and TVs and the people behind the cameras and the people running wires and the people doing production and the people just running around, it was nuts. But so everyone's doing their own thing, and everyone is trying to, I guess, be the best that they can be in these spaces. And especially like when they're on the camera, they're trying to be their character. They're trying to be as polarizing and as whatever as they are, that them like on TV or on radio. So you're walking by these booths. Like I was walking by booths to get to the booth that I was doing my spot on. I walked by Cam Newton's show. I walked by Dan Marino in a middle of an interview. I'm sitting here like, holy shit, is that Dan Marino? Like, excuse me, Mr. Marino, I have to go to my table so I can do my show. It's just it was crazy. I would imagine it's similar to I mean, this might be a bad example, but I would imagine it's similar to like going to a Saturday Night Live interview or a tryout or something, or maybe even like an open mic night at like a huge comedy store where you're sitting there with whoever, Dave Chappelle and Dane Cook and all these people, and you're waiting to go, and you're like, man, I'm in the green room, and that's Jerry Seinfeld, like as Dane Cook. I'm going on, like, what the hell is going on here? So I do my spot. I thought it went really well. I thought it went good. Really enjoyed it. Did about 10 minutes, something like that. No prep, no pre-questions, just a good old-fashioned fluid conversation. Super fun. Shout out to everybody who was involved. It was very cool. Really enjoyed it, and super cool experience to be in that atmosphere. And luckily, I do this every day. I do this 1 or 2 times a day, a lot of times more. So once you kind of get into the rhythm, once you kind of get into the flow state, it was all good. We were rocking and rolling. So, but after that, when you have your media credentials, you're just there. You're just in this area. So I just kind of walked around and watched some other shows and watched some other people and just saw how other groups did it and just try to, get some ideas and just whatever. And for someone like who's done content for this long, it was just so cool to see. And it was so interesting, and it was unreal. And, it's crazy to think about. I originally was doing this like in my parents' spare bedroom, and to go from that to Radio Row at the Super Bowl, where you're not a guest, you're not a fan, you're not you're in it. You are part of the Radio Row. You are part of the media. You are in there to talk ball. And man, I mean, it's been a long road and a rewarding road, but this was the most rewarding. This was the most validating. This was awesome. And I know when I came out of it, so I hung around for probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, something like that. And I saw like Kevin O'Connell. I was standing there, and I'm standing there watching. I think I was watching DraftKings, and Kevin O'Connell walks by me. Like Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, walks directly in front of me. I have to like scoot backwards to let him go. At one point, Drew Brees walked, and Drew Brees walks like around me, and he's being flanked by 2 people with huge plates of wings. And I'm like, man, what is going on? But then I realized, and then he eventually ends up doing some show with Bounty because he's sponsored by Bounty. And I guess the wings were meant to show the paper towel strength. I don't know. But, Breeze is walking around. Kevin O'Connell's walking around. Like I said, all the radio hosts are walking around. Florio, Sims, like I said, Kay Adams, Golick, Deion Sanders, Prime was there. He's just chilling. And it's insane to think about all those personalities, all those audiences, all those shows, all the wires, all the production teams, all of that in the same room doing their show at the same time. It was wild. It was really wild and interesting to see. When I left, so eventually after I saw everything and hung around and all that, and people, I think they were close to a lunch break, I left, and I walked back from the convention center, walked all the way back to where I'm at, which, like a 2-mile walk, so plenty of time to think. But I remember thinking, I remember it was an hour ago, but it was I came out of it incredibly motivated to continue what we're doing here, to keep pushing, and just keep rocking and rolling. And, there were certainly times in the last 10 years of doing different forms of content, whether it's on podcasts or YouTube channels or whatever, where you think, like, naturally you sit back and you're like, man, what am I doing this for? I'm doing this for 20 people. I'm doing this for 10 people, doing this for 5 people, whatever. And then, then it gets up and the numbers go up, and then that helps fuel, like, why you're doing it. And, it's fun to see, 5,000 people, 8,000 people, 10,000 people, 400 comments, whatever. Like, all that stuff, super gratifying and great in the moment. This is motivating because you can see, okay, I'm in the dance. Like, even if it was only for 10 minutes, even if it was only for a morning, even if it whatever, it's like, I'm in the dance. I'm in the conversation. So now it's like I came out of it so motivated to just keep giving everything I've got to this and enjoying it, and enjoying the ride. And I was already thinking, like, man, next year I got to be there every day. Next year I want one of the big booths, one of the big stages. Like, you just start thinking, like, okay, what's next? How do we keep going? So it was so cool. It really was. I mean, it was an experience that I simultaneously, like, always expected to have, but never knew if I'd have. Like, I always thought, and probably similar to, like, the open mic night or the Saturday Night Live thing, where it's like you at some point you think you are good enough, right? Like, that's the God complex that everybody that creates content. It's like, my content is so good that people should watch it. You know what I mean? Like, that inherently you have to have some kind of self-belief. It flips itself on its head whenever it's like, okay, well, you've said all this. Like, you've said you're good enough to be in this space. Now you're in this space. And then you have that moment where you're like, damn, okay, well, I did say that, and I am in the space. So now I gotta perform, and I gotta do my thing, and I gotta exist in this realm. Just like the Saturday Night Live thing, where you can say I should be on Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough to be on Saturday Night Live all day, every day. But when you get on that stage and you get in that interview and you get in that tryout, okay, prove it, right? So, but it was just a really awesome morning. It was just a really awesome day. I was certainly nervous when we started the interview, because, like I said, I'm sitting there. Dan Marino's 4 booths over. Drew Brees is walking around. I'm seeing, everyone walking around and doing their thing, and then the lights are on, and then you got to go, and you're listening to the questions, and you're trying to think, like, man, is that Dan Marino? And then you're also trying to focus on the question, and you don't know how much time you've got. And so it's a very fluid thing. But like I said, once we got going, muscle memory kicked in. I felt really good about the product. So yeah, I mean, this is on a Friday, so obviously it's towards the end of Media Week and Radio Row, and it being in New Orleans has been so cool, just to see everything, to see the award shows, to see Radio Row, to see Media Week. And next year and moving forward, obviously is something that I'll have circled on the calendar to just try and get back to and whatnot. So, but really, this wouldn't have not been possible if it wasn't for everyone who watches these videos and supports the channels and supports the content and supports everything, whether it's, this channel or any of the other channels or social media or podcast or whatever. Like, however you watch it, support it, all that stuff, that is part of why I got to do what I got to do today. And it was incredible. But it was an absolute honor, and it was so rewarding. And like I said, so motivating. And I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to get back to pumping out videos, pumping out podcasts, pumping out whatever. We're staring down the Super Bowl in 48 hours, and then we're on the next season. Hopefully after the Super Bowl, the Saints get some big news with Kellen Moore, and we can start on that content train. But I'm ready. I think I'm definitely a happy bunny today after experiencing that. Definitely took a few moments to just kind of soak it in, to just kind of look around and kind of say, okay, you made it to the big dance, but on to the next one, right? Like on to the next. How do you get to the bigger stage? How do you get to the bigger table? How do you get to whatever? So whatever the next, who knows? But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you all a little bit of a look, kind of a back, behind the scenes kind of thing, detail the whole day. I'm sure y'all saw it on Twitter and Instagram, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit while it's fresh in my mind. We'll probably do a bigger, longer podcast about it, where it's not just kind of instant reaction. But yeah, if you've been around and been along this journey, I appreciate it so much. And this has been awesome. This has been an absolute run. I think, not to fully wax poetic here, but I remember at one point leaving, or even when I was there, it's like, okay, this is where I belong. This is what am supposed to be doing. It was like that feeling where it's like, I belong here. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is it. This is the track. This is where I want to be. I want to be in the mix. I want to be talking ball. I want to be talking sports. I want to be chopping it up. I want to be in this universe. And being in it with that feeling was just something else. So very validating day, very, very motivating day. Yeah, I'll be thinking about that one for a while. So, all right. But thank you very much for watching. Get on down in the comments below if you have any questions about what it was like or anything that I didn't detail in this kind of 15 minutes ramble. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all the support every day, through all the videos, all the stuff. I appreciate you very, very much, and I will see you in the next video.